So this is the last of my tech time sessions, and it's going to be the best, of course, because I have some fabulous people I've scraped up from around the exhibition today. I don't know who they are. I'd like them to introduce themselves. They are pretty, I think they should know what they're talking about. They're pretty well known in the industry. Let's start with young Mr. Wozni from EFI. Quick introduction.
Sure thing, and I like to think of it as we won the lottery to be able to sit up here on this panel with you. So,
what do you really want?
So my name is Mike Wozni. I work in the marketing department in Meredith, New Hampshire, which is where the EFI Inkjet division is based out of. I've been with the company 13 years, and I'm looking forward to spending the next 30 minutes with you.
I thought you were going to say 30 minutes with EFI for a moment. Richard.
Hello, I'm Richard Darling. I'm with ZAR. Been with ZAR for 3 or 4 years. Obviously, we make the print heads that go into some of the machines that you see around the show. I'm based in Cambridge, and we're here we've got the technology bit. We're just a component supplier, really, but we're heavily involved in industrial rather than graphics, which is presumably why I'm here.
Just involved in components. I love it.
We're just a mere component supplier,
yeah,
that's all.
Yeah.
We only supply components.
Yeah. Steve.
Hi, I'm Steve Knight. I've been involved with graphics for probably 25 years, always at the leading edge of technology, with disruptive elements coming in from early computers, seeing DTP revolution, and now seeing direct-to-print in single-pass presses.
And John.
Yeah, John Mills, from CEO of Inka Digital. Yeah, I've started my career at Domino, so one form of inkjet, then moved into kind of printed electronics, and eventually ended up at Inka.
I think you're in the right place at the right time. But anyway, let's kick off.
Sure.
The first question is quite long, but it's got a very short answer. And we're not going to stick to a particular routine. Let's just feed off everything and see what happens. So the first one I just threw out to people was, two decades ago, would anybody really believe we'd be where we are today with inkjet technology? And who would like to start? Steve's got the microphone.
I'm holding the microphone, which means
Go
I
on.
start. It's when you first asked the question, I think the answer was yes. But if we look in depth, 2 decades in this industry, a decade ago, we were still looking at large drop, binary, low resolution, slow printers. 2 decades ago, no, this industry didn't exist.
Thank you, Steve. Richard, I shall come back to you later. Well, go on, you go next. We can go straight across.
Okay, I didn't want to jump in from anybody else, but as a mere component supplier, we should go last, really. But I would say you have to question where we are now. I showed a slide yesterday at a presentation where 1/3 of the output in display graphics is produced by digital means, inkjet. The other 2/3 is still analog. So did we believe that the market would be like it is? Well, I'd say I'm surprised that it hasn't grown faster. And the limiting factor is that I don't think people are using the digital advantage as much as they could. So there's still a lot of, this is a FESPA, there's still a lot of screen production, and screen production is a bottleneck for creativity. So I would say as things evolve, I don't think we've arrived at anything. I think we're on the way to something else. I think that with guys like EFI and John's team, they'll be developing across the display sector with new materials, new fluids, new substrates, and a different economics, with a different expectation from the market, so that digital production is more and more in demand. So I would see that we're on the way somewhere, so I expected that we'd be further along. And that's from my background from Xerox, before I was into inkjet.
So Mike, let's have you next, and then we'll finish off with John. And I've done what I've always said I shouldn't do, is leave my telephone turned on.
So it's interesting. So the ViewTech part of the business was founded in 1988. We sold our first printer in 1989. 2 years later, we had a population of 4 printers in the field. So, 20 plus years ago, the conversion from analog to digital, it was a very difficult one for the market to get their heads around. We fast forward to today, and Richard is very unassuming in terms of the czar's part of the what their impact is in the marketplace, because some of the advances that they've made on the industry's made on the printhead side of things has enabled the Incas and the EFIs of the world to produce more product at a lower cost per square meter. Due to their, some of the advances that have been made. So as a result of that, I think if you take a look at the trend today, in the last 5 years, it's probably doubled or tripled the rate of digital growth in terms of eating or consuming some of that analog print. And a lot of that, it just comes down to economics, like you mentioned. The cost per square meter, how much does it actually cost? It enables me to increase my run lengths as a result of that. So I think what we're seeing is that growth rate to double and triple over the last couple of years, and we're surprised it took this long, but we're certainly excited by it.
So, John, you've come on from a different direction, really, a different background. How do you see it?
Well, I joined Inca about 14 months ago, so FESPA last year was my first. And when I joined, Bill Baxter, who founded Inca, he was really excited about our new, very high-speed S50, and he said, well, these things are going to sell like hotcakes. And we also had this other machine, which was a lower speed but higher quality, smaller drop machine. And it was kind of like, well, bit of a sideshow. Well, in the last year, 4 out of 5 machines have been the small drop. So we couldn't even get it right in a year. So I think predicting the future is just incredibly difficult. So we have a new machine out there. Is it going to be a success? We hope so. But if history tells us anything, is that it's very difficult to see where we're going. And when I spoke to Bill, Inca was founded, I think, trying to produce a machine for a packaging. And it was just some random guy who walked past who said, oh, I want to buy that machine for screen printing. And that's how Inca was founded. So I think it's really tough to kind of predict the future. If I could, I probably wouldn't be sat here. I probably would be on a beach somewhere.
Oh, really? Yeah. Is that what we're all doing wrong?
No, I think just you.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing Inca at an early, it was an IPEX, and they were kind of stuck in a corridor. Was that right? Nobody quite knew what they were doing. I've got competition. Oh, no. Oh, no. I'll try, if you can hear me, if anybody's listening, that is, I'll go on. I think while we're on this subject, why don't we talk about the growth? I mean, where are we going to go next? What's going to happen? Directions.
So that's an interesting question. Obviously for the last 25 years we've been focused on screen print. That's been the big target. Everybody has I guess looked at the numbers and said, yeah, that's all the output coming off a screen press is going to be where we're going to target these products that we produce and sell each and every day. The next big one, it's really a general thing. What's being done analog today, where you can lower your cost by doing it digitally. We hear a lot about, on the other side of the hall, we hear a lot about printing on a textile type of substrate for direct, for garment replacements. We also hear on the industrial side, anything that's functional, where you can not so much print a graphic, but print a design. Instead of having it done either rotogravure or flexo. So it's, there's, with Inkjet, as we lower our cost per square meter, as we go faster, print higher quality, the market opportunities are tremendous.
Let's go to John next and leave the two in the middle till last.
Yeah, I think that screen printing replacement was actually quite easy because it takes 7 hours to produce the screens for a 5-color print, and it's very difficult to actually get color uniformity over a screen print, and the quality wasn't that great. So it was a pretty easy target to come along with a printer that was higher quality. As soon as you start trying to attack offset, then you've got a pretty difficult quality benchmark to hit. You also got the issue that all of the offset guys and flexo guys see digital coming, and they're improving their processes as you go. So you're always going after a moving target. So I think that the kind of the commercial print side is going to be tough.
Well, there's a numbers game involved there as well, isn't there?
Sorry,
there's a numbers game because you've got margin, which obviously is pretty keen on analog.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the growth is that for commercial printers, in order to make their existing analog presses, they have to run them all the time. And to get the maximum efficiency from them, I think you have to then get the small jobs off those presses onto a digital. So I think the sales model in commercial may be more about how you increase the productivity and the efficiency of the existing technology by having digital next to it, rather than it just being a pure ROI by itself.
Well, it's customization and VDP as well
Yep.
are factored in, because that's obviously something you cannot replicate in an analog process. Steve.
Yes, Sophie. The future. What's going to happen? I think we're going to see a dramatic change in speed of production as we move from scanning multi-pass devices to single-pass printing. If we go back just 5 years to look at single-pass presses of 70 centimeters, we thought the developers were crazy. When we saw them go over a meter, we giggled a little bit. Today, I think the largest printer I know of a single pass is 3.2 meters. We're seeing it go cross-industry. We're seeing it into secondary packaging. We know that primary packaging is a market that is going to develop very rapidly. So yes, we're still in the infancy in Inkjet.
Richard, wake up.
I agree with all of the above. I was interested. Yeah, it is the economic benefit is the thing. If there's an economic benefit, then there's an economic imperative to change. We've seen a revolution since display graphics in the ceramics market, which is an interior design thing. It's a construction material, whatever you want. The industry was in trouble a few years ago. As the construction industry slowed down, all of its production had to carry on to run efficiencies to feed the beast. And they were producing for stock, but it's a fashion-based product as well, so they were producing for stock, and all of their cash was tied up in stock. That's a disastrous formula, and the only thing that broke the cycle was that they were then able to change from a push model to a pull model, which is where they were able to produce designs without changeover times, without changeover costs, without investment in sleeves or tooling or cylinders or whatever they needed before. Plus, they found that the actual production process itself with Inkjet, in materials and time and running, was more cost-effective. So there's nobody in their right mind in the ceramics industry who would buy an analog machine. EFR are involved in that industry as well, as one of the major manufacturers of equipment. We've seen a revolution there, so that probably around about 2/3, if we're conservative, of that industry is now converted to digital globally. So in the answer to my first question about whether we expected display graphics to be in this condition, in this stage, whether we've arrived and celebrate this arrival, we're actually only part of the way towards what ceramics industry has actually achieved in 4 years, 5 years maybe. As to where next, I think there are several industries where we shouldn't underestimate the guys involved in wide format graphics and grand format graphics, and now in ceramics. They actually have expertise in depositing materials onto substrates of any sort to produce production processes in a single pass way, and to achieve those economic imperatives with a mixture of chemistries and material science, and with building machines that can handle that flow of data. So where next could be packaging, it can be on primary packaging, it can be in bottling, it can be on cartons and corrugated board, turning corrugated board marking into something that's decorative and merchandising. It all goes around in a circle, because then packaging becomes a display graphics surface. And we see with the introduction of digital screens, where you have moving pictures advertising products, people are hardened to that. Billboards, they've lost some of their shine. Posters and point of purchase material, they're part of everyday life, but what consumers are really looking for is variable messaging, more creativity on the packages that they can touch. So I would suggest that packaging and the whole infrastructure behind the deposition process, the printing process, is going to adapt to a world where the look and feel of every product that we use as a consumer is going to have a more dynamic pattern, so that we don't have to plan months ahead, like in the ceramics market, where you push and provide in an old Stalinist kind of way. It's actually responding to consumers to give them what they want.
So I'm going to cut in there. Well, what about some of the technologies that are coming on board? I mean, I'll start with mics as an obvious one. What about LED curing? How's that going to help change?
Yeah, so LED. Sorry about that. So LED's been it's the easy answer regarding LED is that it's a power savings and it's a greener solution as a result of that. They don't the bulbs don't need to be replaced. Where we've seen the benefit of that technology that was really the most unexpected is really on twofold. First and foremost is just the material range that's been opened up to us. Prior to LED coming online, there's always been a version, a digital equivalent for the materials that we print on, and they come at a cost. And that's still, I mean, when people are doing a break-even analysis in terms of analog to digital, I mean, the material is a cost to that. You're paying more for those materials. So being able to print on a wider range of materials because you're taking the heat element out of it was a big breakthrough or what we feel for the industry, because it enables us to print on thinner materials, a wider range of materials, materials that can be rolled up instead of having to ship flat. So that's been a big win for LED. And in addition to that, and this is something that we, again, didn't expect too much, just the overall reliability of the system. When you're taking heat out of the equation, the inside of our printers used to be at 140 degrees Fahrenheit, 150 degrees Fahrenheit, just because of all the lamps and they're self-contained. Now we're well below 100 degrees. So when you reduce the amount of heat that's inside the system therefore becomes a lot more reliable. And a more reliable machine is more predictable. And customers can run them longer. Not to say that there was a problem before. It's just one of those benefits that we really didn't expect with LED was just the overall increase in reliability of the product.
Okay, I mean, John, what are you sort of adding to the Inca portfolio to take on board? It might not be the great innovative stuff that everybody jumped about in excitement over, but there are subtle changes going on under the bonnet.
I mean, I think that Inca is known for flatbeds, and I think if we sat here in 5 years' time, we'd be looking at a much broader portfolio, because I think that substrates are changing. There's more fabrics and materials that people want to print on. So flatbeds will always have a place, but I think that Inca will be broadening its portfolio of products for sure. But I think that the one thing that is going to determine the success of any of these applications is around the inks, because I think that the great success of the ceramics has been the inks and the way that the technology of the heads has improved in order to jet fluids, which probably 10 years ago, if somebody had handed a head manufacturer a ceramic ink 10 years ago, they would have probably fallen off their chair. The fact that you can now jet them reliably, and we all benefit from the development of the head. So I think many of the applications that we're looking at, the limiting factor is not our ability to develop the hardware, because the reality is that actually isn't that difficult. The real tough bit is in the chemistry of getting the functional fluid that the end user's buying the ink effectively on the substrate, and that's the bit that's really going to open up the technology. So I think that's where I would see that the focus really has to go on, because Inca will be we will be confident of delivering a machine in an application space to do that, and I'm sure AFI would do an equally good job of that. But I think it's those inks and head technology that's going to be the thing that.
This is the boring bit that Richard talks about.
Yeah, we just need some more component supply. So.
Now, children, Steve.
Yes. The technology is already out there. If we look at the adoption of the technology, and Richard says he's a component supplier, I wouldn't see him as that. I would say he's a technology provider, and that you acquire that technology through buying products where that technology is embedded. So we've seen the technology, whether it is from the components of the print heads or whether it's from the fluid, and it's how that technology is exploited. And graphics has always been at the leading edge of exploiting particularly electronic technology, and we've seen that for the last 25 years. We've seen the Macintosh disrupt the print industry. We've seen the development of electronic networks have been very disruptive in the industry. A lot of the core technologies that have been developed haven't been used for their core development purpose. They've been exploited in other areas. And I say the technology is already there, whether it's in the heads, whether it's in the equipment, and it's really how it's exploited for economic gain. And it's the economics that have driven the ceramics that Richard talks about. It's economics that's driving textiles. So we will see a big change in manufacturing occurring over the next 10 years. And I say economics, I think Inkjet is probably the largest growth economy that we have in Europe. It's probably the greatest provider of high-value jobs in Europe.
But hasn't integration been a kind of magic word, particularly now? Give it to Richard, let him have this one. I mean, he does the boring bit.
When you say integration, you mean...
Well, just people actually aware that there are other products out there. They haven't got to go out and reinvent the wheel. People can work together and systems integrators can get together so that you can develop the application rather than just one bit of what's going to produce it.
That depends on the process that you're trying to put inkjet technology into. So sometimes the only solution is to actually design a machine for a given application that suits, it's tailored to that application. On other occasions, there's no point in reinventing a wheel. You can actually just use what's available, and there's plenty available. So in some cases, you would need to develop something bespoke for an application and then replicate that in that application, because industrial inkjet is where you actually have to fit into a part of a process. So just to take ceramics or laminate flooring or something, the decoration part is something that's in a chain from raw material. Laminates, for example, you've got trees in at one end, and you actually have a shop that's selling packets of flooring at the other end. And it is literally on the same site. So the decoration part of that, it needs something that's specific to that. The chemistries that John's mentioned, the chemistries have to be specific to the downstream processes for the application and for the other processes that form the product. In other cases, you can use an Inca printer, or you could use an EFI printer, and you can fit that into a range of different applications. There might be minor modifications, but the more you can use standard, the better, because that means that you get to market quicker, you get the technology to market quicker, you're able to use it without delay, and also the solution is more cost effective because you've already got the spread of R&D expenditure, and I don't think anybody should underestimate the costs of research and development and designing a new printer for a new application.
We've only got time for one more question, so I'm going to ask the inevitable one. Industrial. What does it mean to you, John? Well, you'll know, because that's where you've come from.
I'm picking up on Rich's point there. I think industrial is where, in our world today, we basically sell a standalone print solution, effectively. So whilst there may be different handling systems around the machine, industrial is where you're adding value to a product, and functionally the product is doing something else. People are buying it for the value of the product, and print and decoration is just one other thing. And I think the difference is going to be around business model as much as technology, because you cannot enter as a print company into somebody else's business, because they will have that route to market. So if you look at kind of furniture decoration, unless you actually partner with somebody who already has access and knowledge of that market, you can't go in and say, I'm going to build a standalone furniture decoration system. I'm not sure that's a model that's going to work. So I think the companies that are able to take what they have, work with, partner with other companies and adapt what they have to those environments, that's really for us industrial. I think industrial means partnerships with industries and how you integrate that inkjet technology in with their systems.
Thanks, Steve.
I'd very much second that. There's a lot of definitions of industrial print. Furniture manufacturing is a great one. I know of one company using inkjet to decorate tabletops. Their typical selling price for a table with their inkjet and lacquered design starts at about 6,000 euros. They don't make very many tables. I think they make quite good money, but not very many tables. That is not industrial print. That is furniture, that is creating artwork. If you're going to go into an IKEA production line and start decorating the kitchen cupboard doors with inkjet, that's industrial.
Thank you. Richard?
Continuing that theme, that's interesting because the closest, in short, industrial is actually where you are part of an overall production process that starts off with raw materials and ends up with a product. In that example of an IKEA furniture line, it could be that if you take a plain vanilla piece of furniture and you see it in the store and you look online in the store or beforehand at the design you want, you choose the color scheme, you choose the design, it generates a file. By the time you get to the checkout, you could have had it printed in the store. That's still industrial, but it's also retail. But it's creating a product. So the one that's a one-off bespoke could be an industrial process. But it's the way that people do it. It is a continuous process, and it needs particular things. It has to fit with other things, for example, protective technologies, lacquers, lamination in furniture, for an example. Or in ceramics, it has to fit in with glazing, with the firing processes that go downstream from decoration. So decoration is just an element in an overall production.
Mike, what's your view on this? Sorry, Richard, I've cut you short.
My view is very similar to the other panelists. It's industrial to us at EFI is that anything that's functional. So to Richard's point, you got raw materials coming in and you get finished product going out. The biggest differences we see is a lot of it comes down to the fluids. Having a fluid that works within a process that's not standard. There's a lot of work that needs to be done there. Plus the environment. Today we have an environment that's required for the presses to work within. It's a lot more difficult for those environments to achieve that, and therefore you got to modify your product accordingly in a process, in an industrial or manufacturing type of process. So it's anything where you have raw materials coming in, finished product going out, and it's a functional product that's completed.
Thank you. Yeah, go on, Richard, if you're quick.
Just one thing, an inkjet device is just something that deposits a measured quantity of fluid in a particular place at a particular time. And the rate of that process is a defining part of it. But it doesn't have to be, we're concentrated in against screen and offset in color. But the term functional is interesting because the deposition technique from inkjet and all of the machines that you see here are capable, if they have the right head chemistry combination, of depositing fluids that are even invisible, but they have a function, or they can be conductive, they can be protective, they can be anything. So the fluid, even 3D printing. 3D printing, as the way that we're involved in it, is a process where you're actually putting two materials together, they fuse, and then you can create a viable alternative to something like injection molding. And I'm talking about not prototyping, but production, so that you can produce bottle tops or packaging, or you can produce aeroplane airframes, or you can produce the Aston Martin that gets blown up at the end of the James Bond film. They're all produced by that technique. So all of those things are possible as an inkjet deposition technique. The hardware that technology is built into gives the capability as part of an industrial process.
Sadly, I think we've run out of time, or we're rapidly running out of time. I wish we'd had an hour or 2 hours. I would, with these four distinguished people. So I'd like to thank them for coming along and giving us a few thoughts. Thank you, Mike Wozni. Thank you, Richard Darling. I won't say the obvious. Thank you, Steve Knight, and thank you, John Mills. Much appreciate the time you've given me. Thank you.